Hello, in this video I'd like to explain some basic features of working in ProconWeb Weidmuller's HMI visualization software. So the first stage is to open the project or the software. I'm using ProconWeb 6.4. Okay, so just to explain, you have the version information here, and here you have some hyperlinks to directories. If we go into the top one, working directory, this is where your projects are held. So the default path is C ProconWeb Designer Work Data, and the project files end with the extension PWD. As you can see, the files are fairly large. You then have some tutorial pages, so each one of these is literally a one-page document, and then you have manuals. So you have the designer manual, the operator manual, and then you have manuals for all of the various communication protocol options that are available to you. You then have the project tree, and at the moment that's empty, and it will be until we open the project. So we open a new project. I would always suggest initially, when you're learning the software, you start off with an empty project, which is the default highlighted option. Give your project a name. So my first project. And then notice target type. There are actually two options. If you click on the pull down, you've got HMI, SCADA and Embedded Systems. I'm going to use HMI SCADA in this instance, which basically means the project will be streamed to a browser on a PC. Either this PC that's been used for the development of the project or another PC. Doesn't matter. The embedded system means the project will be held on side a Weidmuller controller, either a Ucreate Studio controller, code assist based, or the web controller, which is purely programmed via a browser. So embedded system means the actual HMI project is embedded, stored within the controller itself, not on any other hardware or PC. That's the runtime. So in my example, I'm going to use HMI SCADA, open an empty project, and then you'll see the project tree will populate progress bars showing the project being created. I'm actually using build or version 6.45733. There is a later one, 6.6, but the functionality is the same. So you now have access to a project tree. So I would advise the first thing we do is go into device configuration and we set up some features in there before we do any more. Here you can see your existing projects that you've recently been working on. So yeah, click into device configuration. You notice there are three target types. Target being the device that's going to display the visualization. Default would normally be a PC or laptop, or HMI, basically a thin client, and the other options are a tablet or a smartphone. So you can actually optimize the display for different devices. So first option I would tick is to scale to full screen and also keep aspect ratio. So that means when you test the project on your PC, it will fill the screen to the maximum extent it can possibly, because the reality is the HMI you pick will probably be of a lesser resolution than your PC. You can also define the start page, and the default startup picture is start, because that is the picture that is created when the project is created initially. So you always get a start picture. You can go into pictures and create new pictures, which you would do in a real project. So the startup page is selectable. That's up to you. Process connection is an important area. This is where you define your communications protocol you're using and your tags. So you'll notice by default you have these various tags created. These are called driver marker, which are basically internal registers. They don't talk to the outside world. You can use them for testing. So you notice they're color coded. Green is a number, or could be an integer or a float. red is a string and blue is a boolean 0 or 1. So to create a tag, just right click, create tag, and then define the type. Another important area is in the tag tab, go into driver selection, and when you've picked the project or defined the project as HMI SCADA, you have access to all of the protocols. So it's quite a large list: Modbus TCP, Modbus RTU, OPC UA being fairly common, and many others: Ethernet IP, Siemens, RFC 1006. Okay, we'll cancel that. So now what I want to do is show you what happens if I pick it as an embedded system. Sorry, that was wrong. So I want to do save project as and change the target type to an embedded system. Okay, so this is just to show you the difference. So it's telling you you're renaming the project, that's fine. Building the project. Now we can go back into process connection, tag, and then pick driver selection. And notice now the options are a lot more limited. As explained earlier, when you're using embedded system, that means you're actually storing the HMI project on the controller. It would normally be a uControl being the Codesys uCreate Studio controller, or a uControl Web, which is the web-based controller, purely programmed via a browser. And you have some other options, OPC UA and Modbus, for example. Not going to go into details with tags at the moment. We can look at that in a later video. Another feature of ProconWeb that is useful to understand is the language element. So if we go into Common Tools, you'll see there is language selection, and the language selection you've got default. So if we hit that pull down, you'll notice you've got default and German. Basically, Weidmuller is a German company, so when we pick default language, we're actually going to get system messages in German. Obviously, you can create your project text in English under the default language selection, but you'll still get all of your system messages in German, which is not really what you want. So before you create any project pages, I would strongly suggest you go into Edit Language and add English. Notice here we use international dialing codes to represent the different languages, as in 044 is English, 049 German. So that's what I would do, is click in here, Enable English. Okay, and then select English as my language. So from now on, everything you create will be correctly associated with English language. So that's your project text, but also equally important is all the system messages you get, and headings around an alarm banner or message banner, for example, or a trend, will all be labelled in English because they're all system features. So the library or language is held in here, local dictionary. So if you open your local dictionary, you'll see here the default language: German, English, French, Italian, Spanish, etc. So these are all system style messages that already exist that are being translated. What you will be doing is creating your own language in your project, and they'll be added to this list of text. What I would suggest you do if you are going to export is that you fully complete the project, make sure you're happy with it in the English language, and then when you've done all of that, you can export this file in a spreadsheet format and pass it to a translator, and he could add the German, French, Spanish language text you require. Okay, so I think the next stage is to look at how you change the resolution of a page. So if we look at start page, the default page that's created, it's actually created from what we call a picture class. So the best way to imagine a picture class is a template. So if I right click on that and go mark picture class, it highlights the picture class that start picture is based upon. So if I click into class 1, you can see some properties. Picture type, picture attributes, dimensions are the main thing I'm interested in. So what I would suggest is, when you start your project, you go into this picture class, and assuming you want this picture to be the full extent of your HMI page, review the specification of your HMI and pick the pixel count for X and Y to match the HMI. Remembering that, as I say, your HMI is more than likely going to be a lesser resolution than your PC. So you've got a start picture. I'm just going to leave it as the default grey background. If I want to create a new picture, I go into here, right click, new picture. And it asks me what class do I want to base it upon. So I can say I want to base it upon picture class 1. And it's automatically telling you what size it's going to be. Okay. And we can OK that. And if I go into pictures now, I have a picture 002. So as you can see, each picture has got a number, 001, 002, etc. And then it's got a unique name. And the default will be picture 002, 3, etc. You can change that to something more meaningful, and I would recommend you do that. I would recommend you label elements as clearly as you can to make reviewing the project easier. So for example, you might want to click in there and rename project and say parameters. And let's say you need to create a second picture class. You can go picture class here, new picture class, and you may want to pick a smaller size. This might be a pop-up window that doesn't need to be as big as the main picture. So you can go in here and make that, for example, 200 by 200. Another important element I should mention is this view up here. So you've got class, instance, and then the number of instances of. So just a bit of an explanation. The class, again, is a bit like a template. So you're defining class, and you're defining a size, and then you'll have instances that make use of this template. So I've created what will be a pop-up window, and I've given it a size of 200 by 200, and then I have to specify where it will originate on my page it pops up. So let's make that 400 by 400 and OK that. So I've created a picture class, and I'm going to rename that to something more useful. So I'm going to call that pop-up 400 times 400, because you may have different size pop-ups. Sorry, is that right? Yeah, 200 by 200, sorry. I just find giving things user-friendly names makes tracing the project simpler. So we've created a picture class, and now we go into pictures and we say new picture, and then we pick which picture class we want to use. So I want to create a new pop-up picture, so I'll use that picture class. Okay. And I can give that a more user-friendly name, and I'll call it my pop-up 1. Okay, and again, if I right click on there, mark picture class, it tells me which class or template is using that. Okay, so if I now go to the start, if I now go into that page, I can add some basic image, for example. So if I just draw a image, so if I go here, image viewer, drop it down. If I go to these tabs here, I can fit to screen a bit better, and then I can bring that over into the center. And then in the instance, not the class, but in the instance, I then define what I want to display. So I go into image, and I can pick some images. Not very exciting, these are the default basic bitmap images. I can also import, so if I go to import, pictures, what have I in pictures? English flag. Okay, so we drop that down, and it's appeared like that because it's a very large initial image. So if I click into the image, I can scale it. So maybe let's scale it 1:1 and see what that looks like. Perfect. Okay, so that's a pop-up, and I'll give it a label name. So I go in here, text field, constant text, in other words just a label, drop the class down, drag it over here, and call that in the instance, call it pop-up or my pop-up. Okay. Now I've got a pop-up window, so I also need the ability to close it. So simple answer is to add a button. So I go to here, button. Here are the attributes or properties associated with the class of the button. So all I want really is an input and what we call function on release, which is the default. So it displays it, I can input to it, and it's function on release. So it does whatever I say when I release the button. Quite often that's how your mobile phone works. You press a button and it doesn't do anything till you release the button. So we OK that, put that down here, double clicking it again, and notice I'm now in the instance. So I've got the ability here to put text, so I'm going to say close pop-up. Okay, and I can also do what you call a tooltip. So I can say press this button to close pop-up. Just a bit more user friendly. So then I have to go back into the class, and I have to explain what the function is on released. So the function will be one of these options. So I want to close the picture. So the option is picture, close picture, and then I have to go back to the instance and pick the unique window I want to close. So I scroll down back to there, and I say I want you to close my pop-up. Okay. I know it looks a bit large, but it's just the principle we're demonstrating here. So we now need to go to the start page and create a button that opens the pop-up. So again, we go to button, and within the class we define how we want it to function. So function on released will be open picture, new picture, and we don't actually want to change the picture we're activating in the class. We want to do it in the instance of the button. So if we go to instance, so if I drop the button down, click into it, now within the instance we can put some more detail. So I now want to say open pop-up, or open my pop-up. Okay, and then in the tooltip, this button button opens my pop-up. Okay. And then if we scroll down here, we have to adjust the action, what we want the button to do. So function on release, picture, open a new picture, and here we have to define the picture. So it's my pop-up. Okay, so that's quite simple, but that's all we're going to do on this project at the moment. So then we have to download this to my PC and then stream it through the browser. So we go to project environment. I'm going to save the project. Then I'm going to hit create, build. So it picks up the name of the project. We say OK, build. And then we say target system. When the progress bar is completed, we can pick target system. Okay, so then we type in the IP address of the local PC, or we can type in its name. In my case, my PC is called 1015. Scan populates this up here, and then we can go online. Create. If you have problems, also if you have problems when you're trying to create the runtime, sometimes it's a good idea to clean export directory, so it clears it all out and it downloads afresh. So do that. Wait for the progress bar to complete. Target system, it's automatically picked up my PC. That's good news. Sometimes you have to manually scan, but sometimes it picks it up. Okay. Go online. When you install ProconWeb, it may have asked you to install a streaming password. So if you set up a streaming password, that's what you should enter now. If you didn't enter anything, then just leave that blank and OK. So that's good news. It's telling me that my browser already has a project on board. Do I want to override it? Yes. And now do I want to stream the project? Okay, so that basically means stream, send the project to my browser. If I now open tab, I type in UK and on my PC, colon, the TCP port used for the streaming of the project. Okay, so it's colon 16700. Open my pop-up, and there it goes. So the pop-up is there, and to close the pop-up, tooltips are appearing. So when I hover my mouse over, it says press this button to close the pop-up. There you go. When I hover the mouse over that one, this button's open as my pop-up. Nice and simple, but just a quick demo that you can create buttons and open a pop-up window on your page. Okay, so a quick recap. So we've created a project, we've created a single page and a pop-up page window, and we've created the project and we've successfully streamed it via our PC's browser. That's all I wanted to demonstrate in this video. In a follow-up video, I'll go into more detail of how you create additional pages and set up navigation. There's various ways of setting up navigation. Okay, thank you.